Now let's segue the conversation into developments in the National Assembly and how Nigerians want to connect the dots to understand how their lawmakers are being a part of the solution to the myriad of challenges, especially looking at the current economic climate where Nigerians are having to deal with not just the impact of subsidy removal, but also the current economic realities in the world where Nigerians are barely making ends meet. The National Assembly recently passed the budget for 2024, the appropriations bill for 2024, after which President Tinubu signed it into law. Well, joining us on the program is first-time senator who is going to provide us with some insight as to how the lawmakers are in tune with the realities that Nigerians are faced with. Joining us on the program is Reverend Senator Amos Yohanna, Senator representing Adamawa Northern Senatorial District at the National Assembly, and is also the Deputy Chair of the Senate Committee on Niger Delta Affairs. Reverend Senator, thank you very much for joining us in the program. It's good to have you join us in the program.
I was tempted to say we'll begin with an opening prayer. But
yeah, exactly.
That is
not unusual. Yeah, not unusual though to have a man of the clergy in the National Assembly. For most Nigerians, I guess it sanitizes the quality of the leadership that we expect to see.
There are a number of them in this dispensation.
Yes, exactly. But let's get your initial thoughts on, you know, what you make of the commentary that Nigerians feel like their leaders are not necessarily in tune with what they're experiencing, what they're going through, especially regarding the current economic climate since the commencement of this new administration. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that conception can actually just happen because if there is a disconnect between the people and their representatives. And it can also happen when people think the people in government, people in the leadership, people in the National Assembly are not part of the society. That kind of thought can come up. But if people come to grips with the fact that the representatives of the people, either in the reps or in the Senate, and that's why I want to confine myself, part of the society. They do not come from anywhere else. They come from among the society. It's the society that decided that from among us we choose some people to lead us, to represent us, and carry our aspirations, our dreams, and our concerns to the fore. Then that kind of thought will not arise.
Okay.
So, because what I'm trying to say is we are part of the society. We are there. We are not dropped from the sky. We're part of the society. Whatever goes on in the society is what we go through as well. So we are in tune. We know that this is what the society is going through because we are the society.
Okay. It is one thing to know, just to jump in there, Senator, it is one thing to know, but another part of that equation is there is, for some Nigerians, they feel like their leaders don't care enough, and that's why the problems persist. Do you think there's enough care to solve the problem, especially as a lawmaker? Is there that political willingness to address the concerns of Nigerians about
Definitely, otherwise you will not aspire to represent your people. If you truly aspire to lead your people, then it should come from that hunger, that thirst to make life better for the people you are representing. And that's why I say we should guard against the disconnect that people try to create between them and their representatives. They are actually a whole. And what the representatives are elected to do is to represent these people, and the representation is a holistic one. You look at what will help the life of the people. You look at what is it that when government reaches out to them with will make their lives better. They will be able to live their lives more comfortably. What are the needs of the society? And because these lawmakers, these representatives come from that society, they should be in a position, and they are in a position, to say this is what we think our people desire.
All right, distinguished. This question has two strings for me.
Yeah.
One, you've been there for a couple of months. Do you get a sense that the people do not adequately understand what representation means at the level of the National Assembly, whether it's the House of Rep or the Senate? Because we've had your contemporaries complain about how people come to them making demands that ordinarily should be directed at the executives rather than the legislature and all of. Do you get a sense that people seem to misplace what these representations are when it comes to the people you represent? And two, and this is coming from your side, you've also interacted with other people. What kind of, what sense of, what do you think is regarded as a sense of representation? Is it when you argue for what goes to your local constituency, or when you argue holistically for what benefits the average Nigerian? Because it's always a fight about what you attract back home rather than what we can do on a collective to make the entire country better.
Well, on the first one, there's definitely a misunderstanding on the role of the legislature, generally, across board. Many people just elect, they see their people in the Senate or Reps to people who go and dig wells for them, do roads for them, put lights for them, build schools for them, and the rest of it, which are basically the responsibility of the executive. Now, they are intertwined. The legislature does the budget, does the laws. And in doing the budget, they work with the proposals that come from the executive. And the legislature now says, okay, they scrutinize the budget and they tailor it to the needs that come from the people. But the execution, the building of schools and the rest of it is not actually the work of the legislature. Ours is to make sure that the budget is passed and to also oversight, to ensure that what is in the budget is implemented according to the letters of the Appropriation Act as signed by the President. So that is one misunderstanding. The other one is a whole societal issue. That once you go to the National Assembly, people think everything that has to do with their lives must come from you. You will get 100 calls a day, and 95 of them will be talking about my son who needs to go to school, there's no school fees, yesterday I didn't eat, my wife just gave birth to a baby, there is a naming ceremony, or there is a bereavement, and all kinds of things, and all through just demands, and demands. It's not totally misplaced. If somebody has a little bit more of advantage, should be in a position to assist and help his people. You don't need to be even in the legislature to do that. I have done that as a pastor. I have seen people come to me in the night with their little balls to seek for grain and for whatever to go and feed their family. So they didn't elect me. I was just a pastor in the community, and I was reaching out to those needs. But when it goes to a level where people think that because you are now a senator or you are in the House of Reps, and so
it should be given.
It should be given that whatever happens in the society, you must give. And some of them are not actually genuine. We are politicians, we see this. Somebody sits under the tree and calls you and tells you that my wife is going into operation room now. And if you will check, it might not really be true. So we go through these things.
Right. But yeah, okay.
But it is not misplaced that people help.
Right. Yeah.
On the other one, on the issue of your second question.
Yes. the issue of representation, whether it's about your local community or
yeah, when you are in the National Assembly, of course, the whole country is represented, either at the federal constituencies or senatorial districts. They are all represented. So if you come together, you are the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So when you do laws, you do it for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But in doing that law for Federal Republic, the confederating units are all represented. So if there is a road to be built, and it's in the budget, is in the northeast, or is in Adamawa North, one senator from Adamawa North cannot pass that. You need the 108 others to be able to pass. So it's a federal government thing. And that's why representation is from those
districts.
And
so why I say this distinguish, it's to lay precedents for a follow-up question. Sometimes you find an infrastructure that require a block intervention that has the capacity to change the narrative for the country. But the only way to get that infrastructure passed is when you have to provide something similar for another place. So you end up breaking what is a scarce resources into particles because you want to touch everywhere, rather than just take a strategic infrastructure, face it head on, and fix it. For instance, every year in the last 10 years, we have provision for Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And rather than complete that road once and for all, we do just a little portion, then take a bit of that fund, throw into something else. That at the end of the day, neither the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway or another strategic road like the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Expressway is completed, because we have taken pieces of those funds and split it around the country in the name of wanting to touch every part of the country.
Well, that's the issue of the complexity of our society. We are a multi-ethnic nation.
But shouldn't you be thinking strategic?
If you say, okay, let's take this year or these 2 years and focus on that, the other people will say they are marginalized.
Right.
So it's a very complex issue. I agree with you that we should do things and complete them so that they are useful. But you cannot say, okay, let's put everything in one place so that we make sure that they are done. Because of our complexity and multiplicity, we have to ensure that every other unit of the federation is taken along.
Right. Okay. Talking about access now. We've seen in other climes, we like to always draw parallels, whether it's with the United States or with the United Kingdom, the colonizer for this country, in terms of the kind of democracy they practice. And we've seen some of their politicians, no matter how high-ranking they are, they're accessible to their constituents. Let's talk about accessibility now. For most Nigerians, when you get to that top level, you stop picking calls, you stop responding, you know, your visits are now ceremonial in such a way that you don't have genuine conversations or interactions with your constituents. Talk to me about what it is like for you and whether that is, you know, the reality that people speak to. And also, for want of time, I want to, compress all the questions in one. Talking about the current dispensation, the 11th, Senate. For most Nigerians, it's the 10th Senate, I beg your pardon. Hopefully, maybe it's a prayer that you're part of the 11th one. That, there's this rubber stamp, perception that Nigerians paint, that everything the president wants, the president gets. That the PDP, even with its numbers, do not put up a good fight to perhaps address some of those concerns around our borrowing patterns and what we need to do to safeguard the future. What can you say about accessibility of lawmakers as a lawmaker, and also the kind of robust conversations you have in the plenary that suggest that, listen, the presidency is not just having its way all the time?
Well, accessibility is something I cannot speak for everybody. I speak for myself. My constituents in the last 2 months have been very, very accessible. In the last 2 months, I have been to my constituency for 3 times. And when I go, I stay at home, I visit. In fact, the last Christmas, I did it in one of the local governments in my constituency. We worshipped and we were along with people. And you take calls. But after having said that, when you are elected, you are not a telephone operator. You need to sit down and do the work you are elected for. So you need to regulate your life to have a balance. That this is the time for meetings and for work for them. You do that. Then when you are out, you go out also and reach out to the people. And I believe many legislatures do that. Otherwise, you cannot be a legislature. The legislature is one organ that stands out as the symbol of democracy. During the military era, the only institution that is absent is the legislature. So if you do away with the legislature, you do away with democracy. So accessibility is part and parcel of the life of a legislature. You are in touch with your people all the time, whether in person or through other means as provided by technology. On the issue of relationship between the executive and the legislature and the executive are not meant to be fighting each other. They are part of one government. It's just that they are separated to ensure checks and balance. You have your responsibility as a parliament to make laws and to oversight to ensure that those laws are implemented. The legislature, the executive is there to execute the projects. So they are not actually meant to fight. The separation is not watertight. Read any book on political science. There is no watertight separation between the executive and the legislature.
All right,
you are meant to work together. It's just the way the heart and the liver and the lungs work.
I like that analogy, distinguish. I will need a yes or no answer for 2 questions before we wrap up. We are completely out of place. Do you have a constituency office? Talking about reach, we would like to know. And 2, have you taken your own delivery of the rice that is claimed to be shared for your constituency? Just a confirmation.
I have a constituency office, so it's a yes. Remember, just 2 months in the legislature, but already we have secured a senatorial district office.
That's right.
And we are working on opening more offices in the other local governments.
Okay.
On the issue of rice, I have not seen any rice. If they will give us rice, maybe they will. But as at the moment, nobody has given me any rice, and I don't think there is any legislature that was given any rice to go and share.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it here for now. Reverend Senator Amos Yohanna, thank you most kindly for joining us on Daybreak this morning. Really appreciate your thoughts and your insight on today's talking point. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I think you should do this often, distinguish.
Right. Okay, let's see where this goes then. That's our show for today. Thank you most kindly, as always, for being a part of it. We do appreciate your time and company. Let's do this again. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 o'clock, exclusive as always on Trust TV. My name is Abdullah Ahmed. Thank you for watching.
If you have enjoyed this, tomorrow is another date. Let's do this again. I am Sunday Michael Ogo. Good morning.